Mike Johnson, and all of our Hockey Insiders analysts, brought to you by Pro-Am Sports, your locally owned sports memorabilia and apparel specialists. You can find them just north of the Yellowhead on St. Albert Trail, 128th Ave, or visit them online, proamsports.ca. Like you, they are sports nerds and AM nasties too. And go check them out today. Great place. They love talking hockey, and get a little Oilers garb for you to dress up your playoff tree or however you choose to celebrate tonight, whether at the game, Moss Pit, or joining Tommy Gazzola at Hudson's for the pre- and post-game show. He'll be at Bourbon Street, West Edmonton Mall tonight, the GCL Diesel pre- and post-game shows with Tommy Gazzola. But it looks like Mike's ready to fly here. We'll bring him in. And once again, we appreciate your time during this busy season. Let's do a mic check here. What do we got? 1, 2, 3?
You got me? Joaquin, you're so good in the room. You should always stay in the room, right? Like, is that it? Like,
yeah, no, that was the end of that sentence too. But
yeah, that's right.
No, he was he enjoyed I got everyone going. The pom-poms, I should add pom-poms instead of a blocker and catcher, to tell you the truth.
Listen, everyone's got a role to fill. The worst part about being a goalie in the playoffs especially is, like, you got to stay out there a long time, because a lot of bodies all of a sudden stay around the team, right? Like, it's not just the 23 guys. Like, they expand the roster, extra guys get called up, minor guys, college guys, junior guys, whatever. And the extra goalie just goes out there and gets pelted at the end of practice. Starter, knees and down, no one gets anything up top, but the backup or the third goalie, look out. It is target practice for his shoulders. It's a tough couple months.
Well, you said it, MJ. I just didn't understand why, nothing against maybe the bottom 6 players, but all of a sudden the thing that they wanted to work on most was their one-timer from the bottom of the hash marks. That was a necessity all of a sudden, where, they would rarely even get to that point, let alone be able to execute that type of play. But you know what? I helped a lot of guys gain some confidence. That's for sure.
Cager, hang on. I was playing in Toronto, and Glenn Healy was our backup. And I think we had Curtis Joseph and Felix Potvin ahead of him. And we're doing the shooting at the end of practice. And he used to wear that helmet, not a mask, but like a helmet, like a Hashik style helmet. And Chris King, God love King, or works in the NHL, one of the best guys, my roommate, love him. Not a guy who scores a lot. Same thing. He walks to the hash marks, pink, right in the forehead, and Heels is leaking because those helmets were not designed to disperse energy to not cut him, because so Heels fires a stick in the stands, and he says exactly that in much more colorful language. Now you want to pick corners. Now you think you're an offensive player. You're going to put the fucking puck on the ice. What are you doing? I like verbatim what you said. It must be in the goalie union handbook. Like, what are you doing? You never shoot, you never score, and you only do is hit you right in the forehead.
Yeah, I played with a guy, Dean Malcock, once. He instead of that, he actually just dumped the puck in the corner and then started cycling it to himself after practice one time. And it was actually really
work
funny.
on your game.
yeah, working on the game.
Mike, just sticking on the goaltending here, though. Let's head around the horn. And the original question I had earlier. Avalanche Jet series, man, 11 goals past Hellebuyck. Seems like Georgiev finding his game after game 1. People thinking the Colorado Avalanche need to go out and get somebody else or find somebody else. Just your thoughts through 2 heavy games here out of Winnipeg between the Avs and the Jets.
So I think the bad part for Winnipeg is, like, this sort of stuff for Georgiev has been the norm the last month. Like, he's had some tough games, and he's had some decent games. Yeah. And the team doesn't really get that phased by it, because this is what they've seen. Like, they're not, oh, God, our goalie let in 5 or 6 or 7, because he lets in occasionally 5 or 6 or 7. And they don't bank on him being great to win. And I think the other side of that coin is that Connor Hellebuyck, who historically, like, undeniably, he's almost coming up on a Hall of Fame goaltender. He wins another Vezina here. Like, he's a borderline Hall of Famer already. His playoff numbers have not been as strong as his regular season numbers in his career. I don't know if it's fatigue or the moment, but Winnipeg's a defensive team. They are a structured defensive team. That's how they win. And the biggest story for me is, Hellebuyck struggling and Georgiev, I guess, bouncing back, but that's not that surprising. It's the volume of good opportunities that Colorado has been able to create against Winnipeg. Like, they've been able to get through that system and that structure to get their chances. That, to me, is the biggest story. You knew this was going to be a tough series for Winnipeg or Colorado. Colorado, I think the best home record in the Western Conference, and now they're going back with home ice advantage. It's going to go long. It's going to go 6 or 7 games, and Hellebuyck's certainly going to have to be much better than Georgiev for Winnipeg to win.
Let's just continue with the goaltending theme as well, and certainly for Oilers fans yesterday, seeing the news of Thatcher Demko being out for potentially the remainder of the series, perhaps further. I mean,
now, are Oilers fans happy with that news, or are they like, oh,
well, that's what Gager was saying too, because I just like this is a team that the Canucks we've been watching and we've been thinking, oh, when are they going to? And Thatcher Demko's played great, and the style in which they play, but the fact that the Predators right now are kind of choking them without him and blocking all these shots, like I don't know. Again, it's a pick your poison. I know it's the playoffs. Everybody's tough. Everything's a tough out. But it's a weird one developing out there in Vancouver and Nashville. I mean, last night about 30 blocked shots. Shot volume really low on both ends. But, I mean, is this kind of a somewhat you're getting that fork ready to stick into the Canucks? Is that a type of a feeling you get from this? Or can they rise above this? Elias Pettersson certainly quiet as well doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, 2 open nets. One he elects to pass, one he shoots wide. Like that would have been in a series that's tight. Like that could have been a difference maker, and he's wearing it. I think he was -4 last night with those 2 misses. He's clearly struggling. You wonder about his health. Like anyone who's unusually off, you're like, I wonder if they're healthy. But you will never know until after the season. But I think the perception that this was going to be a comfortable series was a misguided one for Vancouver. Because if you look at, I know that long winning streak obviously skews numbers, but if you look at all the underlying numbers, basically from the All-Star game on, Nashville was a top 5 team in the league. The goals for as well, a top 5 team, which you would be like, what? Who's scoring goals for them? You got Forsberg, you got Yossi, and then you got Gus Nyquist? Like who else scores for them?
Swedish meatballs.
Him and Ryan O'Reilly. Like as a group, they get it done offensively. And if Saros, who sort of rediscovered his form down the stretch as well, plays well, then they're a challenge. Like Andrew Burnett, I think he's a pretty good coach. He's got them playing well, and I don't feel bad for anyone, but it's so disappointing when a year goes as well as it has for Vancouver, and that market is passionately embracing what's going on there. And to have it sort of come undone or not have the best chance to be successful because of injuries. It's one thing if they lose to Nashville with Demko playing and it just happens, or they get to the next round and they lose to the Oilers. Like, absolutely. Like, that's more likely to happen than not. But to do it with a backup goalie, I mean, the fans are chanting his name to try to get him going, and he gives up a goal to start the game. Like, it's tough timing out there, and Casey DeSmith's got a lot of pressure. So they can certainly still get it done. They've scored a whole bunch of goals this year, but it's gotten a lot harder, not only this round, because as Talkin says, forget about day-to-day. He's week to week. Like, I'm looking forward, if they get through Nashville and they get the Oilers 10 days from now, I don't think they get through Edmonton without excellent goaltending. And I don't think they get through Edmonton without Thatcher Demko. So this is problem 1 is right in front of them, but problem 2 is lying on the horizon if they happen to solve the Nashville Predators.
So, Mike, it's alarming to think that, you have I think the days of the number 1 guys playing north of 65, 70. Demko has shown that, there's wear and tear throughout the regular season that seems to affect his game when they matter most. But now we look at a team like Boston. You got the possibilities of switching goalies. Boston, by all accounts, are going back to Swayman tonight. Do you think that you might see more of this, hopefully platoon style? I know here in Edmonton, what happened this year, the backup goaltending has become less talked about more this year than I can remember for the past 5, essentially. And not that it was a platoon system, but there was consistent. Essentially the other guy was doing his job, and now you're seeing all these goalies in the playoffs, sort of faltering when it matters most. Can you see that happening? And how? And again, maybe the second part is how are the Leafs going to get one past Swayman that's had so much success against them?
So I don't see a platoon happening because there's not enough teams with 1 goalie, let alone 2, right?
Yeah.
So there's no Andy Moe, Grant Fuhr kicking around like, oh yeah, like we should play them around equally. What I think is going to happen, Gager, and I think this is like the sports science tells you like a 54-27 split, 2-to-1 split for your starter to your backup. Now, you want your backup to be good enough to be around 500 in those 27, 28 games. I think that is absolutely where the NHL is headed. And even, Shesterkin, a proven guy who can play a lot, they don't want him playing 60 games. Like, the only guys who play 60 games are like Hellebuyck, Saros, Vasilevsky. Like, I don't think there's really anyone else that teams should feel comfortable playing 60-plus games and then taking them into the playoffs. So I think we are definitely going down that road. Boston's so unique, right? It's been 27 games in a row.
Yeah.
They have alternated back and forth. So you put your 55-shot shutout, you're not playing next game. Too bad for you. And I think the goalies seem to be okay with it. Of course, they're competitive. They probably want to play, but they seem to be okay with it. They support each other. The team doesn't bother them because both goalies play well and give them a chance to win. Swayman has great numbers against Toronto. Ullmark has played better than Swayman down the stretch. So if you're going on merit, Ullmark probably would have started game one, but it wasn't his turn. They gave it to Swayman. He played well. It's not like Ullmark didn't play awesome in game two as well. He was the reason why the game was even close. So I think they keep going back and forth. Even if Swayman wins 2-0 tonight, I don't think Swayman plays game four. I really, really don't. I think they just keep alternating until they don't play anymore. And how do the Leafs get to Swayman? I think what we saw in game two, more traffic and more bodies around the front of the net. It seems so simple, not real sexy. But what Toronto did better was they initiated their forecheck further up the ice. So the D were more aggressive at the offensive blue line, at the red line, not letting Boston get to the offensive zone to forecheck. That way, Toronto doesn't have to play in their own end as much because they're not great at that. They can stop them before they get there, turn it back, and then just put pucks in and around the net from the fourth line to the first. And with that sort of simplistic philosophy on the cycle game, they found themselves with good opportunities. They'll probably try to do that again.
TSN's Mike Johnson with us this morning on the Nielsen Show, Edmonton Sports Talk, brought to you by Pro-Am Sports. Lieutenant Eric Joaquin Gage with you. Mike, getting to the main course here, and just a two-pronged here. Your thoughts, game one, obviously Monday night, Oilers-Kings. I mean, for an Edmonton fan, I mean, that goes how you want it. Your goal scorer gets the hat trick. Your assist king gets 5. The special teams, I mean, robust, steady goaltending. A real... I think the word was chimed in from a fan Tuesday morning, economical from the Oilers. And you can argue maybe the score flattering the Kings a bit with a few of those goals. But I just want to get your thoughts on that night. And heading into game two tonight, to which the Oilers now taking that game one, they failed to kind of jump over that hurdle in years past. They've got that game one. You're heading into game two. I know we were discussing kind of off air. You're looking right at that first kind of 10 minutes. Kings are going to come out, but if Oilers can weather that storm and maybe get a greasy one in or something. My thoughts on this series going from maybe a tough, and I had maybe 6, it really lessens things down. So just if you could share your thoughts on that game one win for the Oilers, which was, I mean, stars across the board. But what are you looking at in game two in terms of, is that first 10 minutes, is the jump the Kings will provide? How do the Oilers kind of see their way through tonight to set up really good going back to LA?
So if that game was economical, I don't want that fan doing my budget, because that wasn't economical at all. That was like explosive, dynamic stuff going on there. 5 points for Connor and a hat trick for Zach and everything else. So I think the worst sort of fears for LA were realized in game one, that we're going to have a hard time corralling McDavid, even with Deneau, even with Kopitar, even with Doughty and Mikey Anderson, like whoever it might be. We're going to have a hard time grabbing hold of that line. We're going to have a hard time handling their power play. Like the power play, I don't know what happens in the power play. We know it's great, but like it somehow gets better in the playoffs when I think preparation and system play favors defense and penalty killers, because you have more time to prepare for it. And then the other biggest one is Cam Talbot up to the task. Like Cam Talbot's had a good year. He's had a great career. And, but he's probably not an upper echelon goaltender. Now, LA is a very goalie-friendly team, protects their goalies really well. But, is he going to be up to the challenge that Edmonton poses at him? And he wasn't in game one. It wasn't his fault. I mean, the goals were sick goals, backdoor goals. Nothing you can do on some of those. But, 7 is 7. Like, that's too many. So all those things are troubling. Now, what I would expect LA to get so much better in the neutral zone, like not give Edmonton so much speed. That 1-3-1 that Edmonton got through, that's got to be executed tighter. I would expect LA to be better on the penalty kill because they have a really good penalty kill. And so I think that should not be assumed you're going to go 3 for 5 or whatever it might be, right? The game will be closer. But the reality is, I mean, Edmonton has the 2 best forwards by a country mile in this series, including the best in the world when he rolls. And so, yeah, I mean, I think if Edmonton gets out early and is able to kind of stretch this one out and Stuart Skinner plays well, then they're in great shape. 2-0, and your 6-game prediction probably becomes more likely 5.
Yep.
Really.
Yep.
Because, Edmonton is probably the better team, and their best players are playing great. Now, having said that, whether it's 10-0 or 2-1 in quadruple overtime, if you get game 2, like Toronto lost, 5-1? The sky was falling. Time to blow up everything. And now they won 3-2, and it's game on. It's the same sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
If LA somehow gets a win, it's game on. Series is going to be extended and tough. So really a pivotal game, even though the Oilers look great in game 1 and 1, pivotal game tonight to try to take control of the series.
No, and you said it. I mean, it's almost like you're looking at the Jets and the Avalanche too from the other night. Now the Avalanche going home with that split, and you're kind of like, okay, well, that was fast. But we'll keep an eye on that. Mike, we'll let you go. Again, really appreciate your time. I know it's a busy time of the season for you guys. Walk us through, if you really can quickly, what are you doing after this? Walk us through your entire day, if you can, the itinerary ahead of you.
There's a car outside waiting for me as we speak, and I am going to the airport. And then I am flying to New York. I have to do an afternoon hit on TSN, and then I'm going to NHL Network Studio for a late night wrap show for all the games tonight, including yours. So I'll be up till about 2:30 in the morning in the studio in New York.
Well, Mike, if you ever want to, we appreciate you coming on, but if you ever need to work on your one-timer from the hash marks, let me know. I'll jump on a plane and we can test out the Sherwood 90-30 and see if it's still got some pop in it.
I'll miss your head, but I'll also miss the net, so nobody will win.
Whatever.
Thanks, Mike. We appreciate it. Safe travels.
All right, boys.
TSN's Mike Johnson. There you go. Brought to you by Pro-Am Sports, your locally owned sports memorabilia and apparel specialists. You can find them north of the Yellowhead Trail. St. Albert Trail, 128th Avenue, or check them out online, proamsports.ca.